Dartmouth University professor worked in conjunction with a group called YouGov, Y-O-U-G-O-V, to do a poll, a very significant poll, more than 1,000 people polled. Took a long time, months of polling, to determine some very interesting, widely held beliefs by Americans, broken down by a political party. But there's a lot in here about, it's a really heavily foreign policy focused poll on what Americans think about foreign policy, Republicans, Democrats, Libertarians. The takeaway from the poll, one of the significant takeaways, is how much agreement there is on key foreign policy issues, which always used to be the case. It was a case where Republicans, Democrats worked together even in times when they were significantly split in American history. No longer, of course, as Republicans have 100%, it's all their responsibility in this case, politicized foreign policy. But there are a couple of stunning numbers in the polls, and it doesn't reflect well on Republicans. First of all, Jesus, we'll start with graphic 4. One of the questions asked was, do you believe that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction when the United States invaded in 2003? 63% of Republicans still say true, 15% of Democrats.
So that number is amazing. There's no other way.
It's just amazing, yeah.
So first of all, let's just acknowledge that even 15% of Democrats thinking that he had weapons of mass destruction is amazing, right?
Amazing, yeah.
But 63% of Republicans wildly, completely misinformed about one of the most important decisions we made as a country in the last 10 years. So we went to war with a country. Hundreds of thousands of civilians died in that war, let alone thousands of our troops, tens of thousands that were maimed and wounded, etc. And it was based on the fact that Iraq was a significant threat because they had weapons of mass destruction. We know it's a fact. It's not disputable. It's not subjective. There were no weapons of mass destruction. George Bush has admitted it. Even Dick Cheney has admitted it. There are no weapons of mass destruction. There were none when we invaded.
It's a strange world. You know, Drew Brees of the New Orleans Saints just had to apologize for a tweet or a comment, I'm not sure if it was a tweet or a comment, where he referenced that regarding the NFL's bounty thing, weapons of mass destruction, like if the NFL kept shouting that they would find bounties, the American people would believe it. NFL fans would believe it, suggesting that we all believe it. And he had to apologize for some inexplicable reason on that. There were no weapons of mass destruction.
And we still haven't gotten an apology, and 63% of Republicans still believe there was.
Right, and he felt like he had to apologize to the military. Yeah, we should all apologize to the military. We sent them there. We sent them there and risked their lives and thousands dead, but there were none. There was no reason to go.
Except we live in an upside down world where the public perception is that the Republicans are for the troops. But wait a minute, if you were for the troops, you wouldn't have sent them on this crazy errand where we invaded a country for no reason and so many of them died. There were no weapons. And by the way, when we went to war, nearly 70% of the country believed that Saddam Hussein was personally responsible for 9/11. In fact, when you looked at
Washington Post poll, September 2003.
That's right. And when you looked at members of the military, the troops that we sent in there, even a higher percentage, over 80% believed Saddam Hussein was personally responsible for 9/11. Also, categorically untrue. It's not a subjective thing. No connection to Al-Qaeda. They hated each other. They fought each other. That was before the war. So the two principal reasons, lies, complete and utter lies, and still a huge percentage of the country, and of significantly so, a great majority of Republicans still believe it. It's partly because the Republicans lie to them on purpose. Fox News lies to them on purpose. Rush Limbaugh lies to them on purpose. But it's also a failure of the rest of our media that they don't call them out on it, and they haven't made it clear enough, apparently.
Yeah, so I'm going to go off script a little bit here, Jesus. We're going to go to graphic 2 next because it's relevant to the fact that Republicans have this misinformation, yet somehow think that they are better informed and believe that, in fact, they are the better informed. One of the questions asked, how closely would you say you follow news and world affairs, foreign policy issues? Very closely, 41% of Republicans, 26% of Democrats.
So they're like, we got this.
We got it. We're down. We got 63% of us are positive that there were weapons of mass destruction in Iraq because we've been watching Fox. We follow it closely.
The funny thing is, so Fox News will do foreign policy from time to time because they want to terrorize Americans with, like, the Muslims are coming. Oh my God, look at Iran. We have to invade Iran right away.
Fear.
So Republicans put in like, oh yeah, I follow foreign policy really closely.
Yeah, of course.
And by the way, Iran was another question. 2/3 of Republicans believe that if Iran develops a nuclear weapon, it will immediately use it against Israel. That also has no basis. That's a little bit more subjective because it depends on what you think the Iranian leadership is going to do, but there's no evidence to that effect. There's no intelligence to that effect.
Real quick, that's graphic 7. As long as you brought it up,
Right.
let's go out of line again and take a look at that one. Just more misinformation from all these people who follow it so closely. Graphic 7, the question, if Iran produces a nuclear weapon, how likely do you think it would be that Iran would use that nuclear weapon against Israel? 65%.
But and so then they say, well, you see, I'm following foreign policy closely. No, you've been misinformed about foreign policy very thoroughly.